Mark had to guess which of the 5 rice balls was made by his girlfriend. He picked one at random, took a bite, and his face immediately twisted in pain. He spit it out in agony. Inside the rice ball was a silver needle. Ever since his parents left on a business trip, his girlfriend Irene had become a completely different person. Yesterday's rice ball incident hadn't even settled, and today Irene showed up again with another lunchbox. This time, she asked to come inside so she could heat it up. Mark felt nothing but fear, and refused to let her in. He quickly lied, saying his mom had already left food for him, but Irene saw right through him. He was clearly eating instant noodles. She asked how he could eat that junk, when she cooked for him every day. Shaking the chain in her hand, she demanded he open the door. There was no way Mark would let her in. He braced himself against the door with all his strength, urging her to leave. Once it finally shut, he leaned on it, gasping for air. His hands trembling, he tried to call the police. Right then, the power in the house suddenly went out. A heavy storm started raging outside. Mark got up to close the window, but what he saw outside froze him to the core. Irene was standing in the pouring rain, still holding the lunchbox, mumbling something over and over. As he watched her lips, the words slowly became clear. She was repeating "I'm sorry" again and again. Suddenly, memories flooded back to the day he first moved into the village. Irene had smiled and waved at him. Back then, to him, she was nothing more than a naive, innocent girl. Someone who would tear up at a slightly harsh word, but melt instantly when he spoke to her gently. This seemingly innocent girl was not only an amazing cook, but also had a strangely cute hobby. She loved going to the junk hill outside the village. To Irene, that pile of trash was a treasure mountain filled with surprises. Once, she found a toy buried deep under the debris. While she went to get tools, Mark noticed a newspaper nearby. The headline read that people mysteriously died in this village every year, but she had clearly told him earlier that nothing bad had ever happened here. He spun around, only to find Irene holding a knife. After falling backward in panic, he finally realized it was probably just the tool she grabbed to dig out the toy, but the scare was enough to make him lose all interest in finding it. The next morning, a police officer came looking for Mark. Another murder had happened in the village just the night before, but the villagers were oddly evasive, avoiding the topic entirely. They believed death was tied to the gods, and that talking too much about it would anger them. So the officer could only ask Mark, the new arrival, for information. After the questioning, Mark returned to the classroom to rest. He vaguely heard Irene and her classmates whispering about what happened last night. That night, Mark got another call from the officer. They went over more details of the case, and Mark learned a crucial piece of information. Another transfer student had mysteriously disappeared before him, and Mark was sitting in that student's old seat. Just then, his dad brought him some snacks. Mark didn't understand why, until he heard the answer. Irene had just been there, which meant she had heard every word of his conversation with the police. She had been secretly watching him the whole time.